Today's passage is Mark chapter 14, verses 32 through 42. Let's read together. They went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took Peter, James, and John along with him, and he began to be deeply distressed and troubled. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death," he said to them. "Stay here and keep watch." Going a little farther, he fell to the ground and prayed that if possible the hour might pass from him. "Abba, Father," he said, "everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Simon," he said to Peter, "are you asleep? Couldn't you keep watch for 1 hour? Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Once more he went away and prayed the same thing. When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. They did not know what to say to him. Returning the third time, he said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Enough. The hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." Amen. After sharing the Last Supper with his disciples, Jesus now rises and walks. He headed toward the Mount of Olives, which was east of the temple, and faced it. On that large Mount of Olives, there was a garden called Gethsemane, nestled among the low hills. It was a place where Jesus often went to pray, a level area suited for that purpose. That night, after enjoying the supper, Jesus moved with his disciples to the Mount of Olives. He then took Peter, James, and John into the deeper part of Gethsemane, leading only these 3 disciples with him. As he neared the place of prayer, Jesus, with a heart full of sorrow, looked at these 3 disciples and said, "Stay here and keep watch." Then Jesus went off by himself and began to pray. This scene is described in today's passage, Mark chapter 14, verses 32 to 34, and the image of Jesus facing the cross, the purpose and climax of his life, and the image of the disciples facing that same cross were so starkly different. We see Jesus praying desperately, with a soul so distressed that he felt he was about to die. But what were the disciples next to him doing? They could not overcome their drowsiness and kept falling asleep. Jesus explains the reason in verse 38. He says that although their spirits are willing, their flesh is weak. The problem was the weakness of the flesh. All of us humans have this weakness. In our hearts we desire what is good. In our hearts we make resolutions. In our hearts we decide to follow God. But when we are bound by the limitations of our flesh, we inevitably fall into temptation and spiritual sleep. The image of Jesus in today's passage shows us another important truth. Jesus is true God and the Son of God. But today's passage clearly shows that he also came in a human body. Therefore, he felt fear just as we do. He felt pain, and on the verge of being separated from God, he carried a heavy burden in his heart. He had a desire to escape. I will read again from today's passage, verses 34 to 36. He said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch." Going a little farther, he fell to the ground and prayed that if possible, the hour might pass from him. He said, "Abba, Father, everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will." Amen. The pain that even Jesus, who came in a human body, wanted to avoid was not abstract or figurative, but real. Therefore, in the face of that pain, Jesus constantly remained in a place of prayer before God. This is the crucial point. The disciples, trapped in the flesh, were weak, but Jesus, who came in a body of flesh, was also weak. Their situations were the same, being confined within a weak physical body. However, the results were completely different. Why? Because their methods were different. While the disciples were led by their weakness and simply fell asleep, Jesus, despite having weakness, went before God and remained in a place of prayer. This difference made all the difference. Jesus wanted to show us the way to overcome the weakness of the flesh. The way to overcome the weakness of the flesh is prayer. Prayer is not for people without weakness to go boldly before God. Rather, the place of prayer is where weak people go before God. We cannot go before God and converse with him because we have everything, but we have no choice but to go before him and plead because we have nothing, because there is nothing but sin in our hearts. That is prayer. And so, Jesus tells us, watch and pray. When trials come into our lives, when our hearts are breaking, when we face a reality we want to run from and escape, Jesus tells us this, watch and pray. Jesus prays 3 times. At first he prays, "Take this cup from me," but as the prayer deepens its direction changes. Yet not what I will but what you will. And after these 3 prayers were finished, Jesus' demeanor was completely changed. These 3 prayers could not have been easy. The name of the place where Jesus is praying today, Gethsemane, is a word combining the Hebrew gat, meaning press, and shemen, meaning oil. Gat shemen means an oil press. At that time in Israel and on the Mount of Olives, there were many olive trees. The fruit of those olive trees was put into a press and squeezed about 3 times. The first pressing produces extra virgin oil, a pure, edible oil. The second pressing yields oil used for cooking. The final 3rd pressing, along with the dregs and seeds, produces oil for lighting lamps. Jesus' 3 prayers in today's passage show that he experienced the pain of being crushed in that olive press. The image of him praying, shedding sweat and blood, was a prayer of love in which he crushed his entire being, completely surrendering himself before his mission. Jesus offered a prayer that was like squeezing out oil, a prayer of love poured out before God. After that time of persevering prayer, that time of wrestling before God, he now comes before his disciples and says, I have come. Rise, and let us go. He no longer avoids it. He does not run away from the problematic situation. He rises boldly and walks that path. If you look at Jesus' gaze, what was it like when he first prayed? His gaze was directed toward the ground as he prayed. Unlike the typical Jewish practice of standing and praying with hands raised, Jesus today kneels and prostrates himself on the ground to pray. But after the 3 prayers are finished, his gaze changes to one that looks directly at the source of his problem, at those coming to arrest him. He did not say, I like it here, I want to stay here. Instead, through today's passage, we see him rising to walk together, striding steadily along the path of the mission God had given him. And between all of that, there was prayer. Dear beloved saints, from a human perspective, this is a cup that cannot be drunk. This is a path that can never be walked. It is a path one would want to avoid, a path to run from, a path one would evade if possible. This is because of the weakness of the flesh within us. But Jesus showed us. He showed that a person who prays can walk that path. We too are sitting here with the weakness of the flesh. We are sitting before God with the problems of our lives. We sit here, not knowing what to do or where to go. But Jesus says to us that you who pray can walk, that you who pray can receive that cup. A person who prays can live by the strength of God. Therefore I bless you in the name of the Lord, that your day may not be one lived looking only at this earth, but that as you look at this earth and pray, you may gaze upon the mission God has given you and walk powerfully toward it. Let us begin with prayer, and we must endure with prayer, and we must overcome with prayer. I pray that you will have a blessed day, a powerful day, as a person of mission, boldly walking the path God has given you.